Welcome back to this series all about uploading files to the web. If you missed the first video, I'd recommend you check it out because it's all about uploading files via HTML. In this video, however, we're going to accomplish the same thing using JavaScript. Now we left the project off with a form that looks like this. And here's the HTML. However, one thing that's changed is I've added a bit of JavaScript. Now there is this onMounted function here that is specific to Vue, but it's not very important. We just need to know that this is going to allow us to run some JavaScript after the component has mounted. So everything else will be handled inside of the body of this function, and it's going to be vanilla JavaScript, so you can use it in any application you want. Now I did set up some code to access the form that's on the page and add a submit event handler, but all of the code that we're going to be looking at is going to run within this handle submit function. In the previous video, we learned that in order to access a file on the user's device, we had to use a file input. And in order to upload it, we had to use a form to make the HTTP request. Now, the file input still applies because the browser doesn't have access to the user's file system, but we don't technically need a form in order to create the HTTP request because we're using JavaScript. We can rely on fetch. I'm still going to go ahead and use a form because it's convenient. We already have it. So the first thing I need to do in this submit handler is prevent the default behavior of the submit event. This stops the browser from reloading. Next, I want to construct the HTTP request using the fetch API. But in order to do that, I need to know the URL to submit this request to. Because this is a submit event, I think it makes sense to take that information from the actual form. Fetch defaults to sending a GET request, but we want to send a POST request. So we'll add a options argument to our fetch call. And in that object, we'll set the method to POST. Now the only missing piece is the body of the request. If you've ever created a fetch request in the past, you may have sent the body as a JSON string or URL search parameters. Unfortunately, neither of those would work to send a file. And if you remember from the previous video, we have to set the content type of this request to multi-part form data. Fortunately, there's another browser API that's built in that will not only give us access to the file, but even modify the HTTP headers when we append it as the body of the request, and that is FormData. So in the body of the request, we can send a new FormData object, which expects to receive an HTML form element. Conveniently, we've already assigned that to a variable. So now let's check out our form. We can select a file, and notice when I hit upload, the browser won't reload, but we will see the request in the network tab. And if we inspect the request, we can see that we're making a POST request, and the content type is multi-part form data, despite the fact that we haven't set that ourselves. We can also inspect the payload and see that the file is being sent as binary data. So if you want to upload files with JavaScript, you still need access to the file system, which you can only do through a file input, at least today. You also need to construct an HTTP request that has a POST method and has a content type of multi-part form data in order to send that information as binary. Today we looked at a convenient way of doing that using a form element and a submit event handler and using form data in the body of the request. Unfortunately, the current submit handler is not very reusable. It assumes that every request is going to be a POST request, and because we use form data in the body, every request will also be sent using the content type multi-part form data. Here's a refactored solution that can be used across any kind of form. We can see that we set up a form data object as well as a URLSearchParams object. And then we set up this fetch options that is going to be a regular object that only sets the method based on the forms method. Next, we determine if we're dealing with a POST method. And if the form's enc type is set to multi-part form data, then we know it's safe to set the form data object to the body. Otherwise, we default to using the search params object, which will set the content type to xwww URL encoded, which is the browser default for a form submission. And in the event that we're not using a POST method, we can assume that it's a GET method, in which case we can update the URL search parameters with the search params object, which once again is going to follow the default behavior of the browser. So if we look back at our form with the updated code and upload the file, we can see once again that the request is sent with fetch. It's a POST request. We have set the content type to multi-part form data, and the payload contains the file binary as expected. So that's uploading files with JavaScript. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any comments, please throw them in the comment section below so I can get back to you. In the next video, we'll move to the back end to see the steps that we need to take in order to receive files. And if you want to be updated when that video comes out, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.